This is the sound of a stopping heart. Not one heart, 1,000, 1,000,000. The future itself, flatlining. It begins with a question. A simple, devastating question posted online. A digital flare shot into our collective night. A woman, late 20s, voice clear and unflinching. Why would I destroy my body, risk my life, give up my career, and spend 20 years raising someone else's legacy for free? Let that word hang in the air. Free. It is a 5-letter atom bomb. It detonated in the comment sections, splitting the world exactly in half. Half roared in furious, guttural agreement. Finally, someone said the quiet part out loud. The other half recoiled in a horror that felt ancestral. This is how the lights go out. This is the whisper before the fall. But the division is a distraction. The real tremor, the seismic shift that will crack the foundations of everything we know, is in the question itself. In the framing. Motherhood, the ancient, sacred, brutal, beautiful act of creation, has been quietly, methodically recast. It is no longer a calling, a destiny, a biological imperative woven with love and duty. It is now, in the stark ledger of the modern mind, a service, a high-risk, high-cost, body-destroying, life-altering labor. And all labor, in a market-driven world, deserves compensation, demands it. This is not a fringe rant. This is not the murmur of the radical edge. This is the new mainstream conversation, spoken in boardrooms and bedrooms, over coffee and in therapists' offices. It is the silent calculus running in the minds of a generation of women as they swipe left, delay dates, and swallow birth control. It is the ghost in the nursery that has not yet been built. And today, we are going to follow that ghost. We are going to descend into the underground of this new reality. We will unpack the machinery of this shift, gear by terrifying gear. What are women truly afraid of? It's more than inconvenience. What are they actually demanding? It's more than money. We will trace the roots of this thinking into the poisoned soil of our modern culture, and we will follow its branches to their logical, world-ending conclusion. This is not an attack. This is an autopsy of a future that may not happen. We are examining the phenomenon that is actively reshaping demographics, rewriting the contract between men and women, and redesigning, no, deconstructing, the basic architecture of human society. Look at the numbers. They are not just statistics. They are screaming obituaries. Birth rates are not declining. They are in freefall. Across the developed world, nations are falling like dominoes below replacement level. That magic number of 2.1 children per woman needed for a society to simply replace itself. South Korea, a near-fatal 0.78. Japan, 1.2, a slow fade to gray. Europe, a continent of museums and memories, mostly under 1.5. The United States, the last holdout, now joining the descent. This is not a trend. It is a trajectory, a silent, collective scream into the demographic abyss. And part of the reason, a huge, glaring, uncomfortable part, is sitting right here, in this question, in this transactional frame. It is hiding in plain sight, if we have the courage to stare directly into its cold, logical eyes. We must start with the fear. To understand the negotiation, you must first understand the terror sitting across the bargaining table. This is not a rational hysteria. This is a cold-eyed risk assessment, and the risks have never been more clearly lit. Fear 1. The temple, desecrated. Think of the modern female body as it exists in the cosmology of our time. It is not just flesh and bone. It is a temple, a curated project, an asset. Its value is scrupulously tracked in likes, matches, social capital, and professional opportunity. From adolescence, she is taught, this is your masterpiece. Protect it, optimize it, hone it. It is your primary offering to the world. Now, into this temple walks the specter of pregnancy. She is not ignorant. The fairy tales of glowing mothers are lies of omission. She has seen the evidence. Her own mother's body, a map of stretch marks and softened contours. The hushed stories from friends. I never fully got the feeling back. My teeth shifted. My feet grew a size. The raw, unfiltered testimonials online that speak of third-degree tears, of separated abdominal muscles, of hair lost in clumps, of a pelvic floor that now betrays her with a sneeze or a laugh. Pregnancy is not a gentle remodeling. It is a soft, 9-month-long earthquake. Hormones rewrite the chemical code of her being. Ligaments loosen, bones subtly shift to make room. Her heart works harder, her blood volume doubles. It can strip calcium from her teeth, leave a permanent mask of pigment on her skin. Even in the miracle of a perfect delivery, the body that walks out of that hospital is fundamentally, irrevocably altered. It is a different landscape, and she lives in a world where films. She is Aiden's mom. Her identity, the complex constellation of traits and passions she spent decades assembling, is collapsed into a single, functional role. Her personhood is subsumed by motherhood. She becomes a supporting character in someone else's origin story. From the outside, looking in, this looks like a kind of death. A soft, societally approved death, but a death nonetheless. The erasure of the individual. She has been taught that her individuality is her highest achievement. To willingly step into a role that historically annihilates that individuality feels not like a promotion, but a surrender. A surrender of the self she fought so hard to become. Is this perception entirely accurate? No. Motherhood forges a new, profound, and powerful identity. It is not a lesser one. But from the precipice of the decision, she cannot see that transformation. She can only see the vanishing act. And she is terrified of vanishing. Fear 5. The betrayal archetype. This is the king of fears. The one that turns the hesitation into a fortress. It is the deep, often unspoken, distrust of men as partners and fathers. She has seen the archetype, not in propaganda, but in lived reality. In her own family, perhaps. In her friends' relationships. The father who is too tired to do the night feed. Who doesn't know how to soothe the baby. Who views childcare as helping her rather than sharing his fundamental duty. The man who, when the baby cries, hands it back like a malfunctioning device. The man whose life, his career, his hobbies, his social life, his sleep, continues with minimal disruption, while hers is atomized. She has heard the darker stories, the cheating during pregnancy, when she feels most vulnerable, the abandonment postpartum, when the reality is too heavy, the financial dodging, the emotional checkout, the man who is physically present but parentally absent. So she runs the numbers. The asymmetric risk calculation is brutal. Her risk, permanent physical alteration, career derailment or destruction, total lifestyle obliteration, primary, if not sole, mental load and responsibility, high probability of identity loss. His risk, some financial burden, some lifestyle adjustment, potentially hurt feelings. The stakes are catastrophically uneven. If he steps up, truly partners, the gamble might pay off. But if he doesn't, if he embodies the archetype she fears, she is left in ruins. Alone with a child, a damaged career, a changed body, and diminished prospects. And he can often walk away. His body is intact. His career is uninterrupted. He can re-enter the dating pool with far less stigma. The system, as she perceives it, is rigged. This distrust is not a pathology. It is pattern recognition. It is the logical conclusion drawn from 1,000 data points in her environment. In the absence of a solid, enforceable guarantee of true partnership, the transaction looks less like a shared investment and more like a trap she is asked to spring on herself. Given this landscape of terror, physical, psychological, social, and existential, what emerges? The negotiation. The demands, drawing up the contract. This is where free meets its counteroffer. Faced with this lopsided ledger of risk, women are no longer just hoping for the best. They are drafting terms. The language of love is being supplemented, sometimes supplanted, by the language of the deal. They are framing motherhood as a high-stakes partnership that requires explicit, material safeguards. They want, in essence, prepaid risk mitigation. 1. Financial security as armor. This is the baseline. It's not necessarily be rich. It is be stable. A house, or a solid path to one. Reliable income that can withstand the shock of her reduced earnings. Savings that act as a buffer. It is the demand for a foundation that won't crumble under the added weight of a child, because financial stress is the termite that eats marriages alive. 2. Infrastructure, not just intention. She doesn't just want a promise that he'll help. She wants the help built into the structure. This means discussions, real, budgetary discussions, about paid support. A night nurse for the first month. A regular housekeeper. A backup childcare plan. It is the institutionalization of support, so it doesn't rely solely on his fleeting energy or goodwill after a long workday. 3. The guarantee of shared sacrifice. She wants evidence, before the fact, that the asymmetry will be minimized. This can look like him taking equal parental leave, him being the primary for certain feedings or nights, him demonstrating domestic competency now. It is the demand for a prototype of the future partnership. And here is where it gets culturally explosive, where the traditionalists feel a cold dread. Some are saying it outright. If I am going to undertake the biological and caregiving labor, I need to be compensated. My lost wages, my career setbacks, my physical toll, they have a where that landscape's value is appraised daily. You are asking her, quite literally, to devalue her core asset, to accept permanent depreciation. In an economy where her desirability, her confidence, her very sense of self is tied to that physical form, the proposition is not just scary. It is economically suicidal. You are asking her to sign a contract where the principal collateral, her body, is guaranteed to be damaged with no clear financial underwriting. For free. The phrase isn't about greed. It's about a catastrophic, lopsided investment. Fear 2. The battlefield within. But the physical change is only the aftermath. We must talk about the event, the battle itself. Modern medicine has sanitized childbirth, placed it in sterile rooms, offered epidurals like blessings. This has only partially cloaked the primordial truth. Labor is violent. It is a force of nature moving through her, using her skeleton as a lever to expel a new life. The pain is not like anything else. It is total, consuming, a white-hot universe of pressure and tearing. And things go wrong. The emergency C-section is not a neat horizontal line. It is major abdominal surgery, performed with urgency, her body splayed open. The hemorrhage, the baby in distress. The interventions that can feel like assaults, even when they are life-saving. The loneliness in that storm, even with a partner present. Women are emerging from these experiences with soul wounds. Postpartum PTSD is a real, documented, and tragically common diagnosis. They can flash back to the sounds, the smells, the feeling of powerlessness. Some develop phobias. Some feel a deep, unspoken rift between their mind and the body that betrayed them, that was invaded, that became a site of trauma. Here is the chasm of understanding no man can ever fully bridge. We have no reference point. There is no equivalent male experience. No physical ordeal that even approaches this scale of sanctioned, life-giving violence done to our person. So when a man, from the safety of his own unaltered body, offers platitudes, women have done this forever. It's natural. You'll forget the pain. It doesn't feel comforting. It feels like gaslighting. It is the dismissal of a profound trauma by someone who will never know its fingerprint. She is being asked to volunteer for a journey to a psychological and physical frontier from which she may not return whole. And she is being asked to do it for free. Fear 3. The gilded cage. Now, step back from the physical. Look at the life she has built. The modern woman is, arguably, the most liberated creature in human history. She has been raised on a doctrine of self-determination. Her identity is a tapestry woven from threads of career ambition, financial independence, social circles, travel itineraries, hobbies, and curated experiences. She is the author of her own story, and the story is about her. Her growth, her adventures, her fulfillment. She looks at motherhood not as the next chapter, but as the end of the book. The baby, that tiny, needy tyrant, does not negotiate. It does not care about her quarterly review, her flight to Lisbon, her book club, her need for 8 hours of sleep. It demands, and the world must bend. Overnight, her freedom, the freedom she was taught was her birthright, vanishes. It is replaced by a relentless, exhausting schedule of service. The life she crafted, piece by precious piece, is packed away into boxes labeled before. You can call this selfish. You can invoke the ghosts of her grandmother, who raised 5 in a farmhouse without a whisper of complaint. And you would be right, but you would be missing the cultural whiplash. For her entire life, the message has been a drumbeat. You do you. Live your truth. Don't settle. Prioritize your happiness. The culture sold her a narrative of radical individualism, and now, at the biological crossroads, it is asking her to make the ultimate collectivist sacrifice. The programming is in direct conflict with the proposition, and the programming is winning. It is logic, not just emotion. Why trade a known, celebrated state of liberation for a guaranteed state of servitude? Fear 4, the erasure. She has watched it happen. To her sister, to her best friend from college. She has borne witness to the disappearance. It starts subtly. The Instagram feed, once a mosaic of sunset hikes, artisanal cocktails, and city breaks, slowly bleeds into a monochrome of ultrasound pictures, onesie reveals, and milestone updates. The conversations atrophy. The sparkling debates about politics, film, and philosophy are replaced by a new lexicon: latch, reflux, sleep regression, puree strategies. The invitations dwindle. The non-mother friends drift away, their lives on divergent, incompatible paths. And then, the final, chilling transformation. She loses her name. She is no longer Sarah, the marketing director with a killer sense of humor who loves post-punk music and terrible horror. They have a market value. Secure my future, or the deal is off. The traditional response is instant, visceral horror. You can't put a price on a child. Family isn't a business. What about love? What about God's plan? These responses carry the weight of centuries, but they ring hollow to the woman running the calculation. She is not saying she doesn't want love, or family, or children. She is saying she is no longer willing to accept a contract where she bears all the downside, while the upside, the joy of a child, the legacy, is presented as its own vague, intangible reward. She is pointing out that the priceless child comes with very real, very high costs, and those costs are borne disproportionately by her. She is, in essence, calling for a prenuptial agreement for parenthood. Is this mercenary? From one angle, chillingly so. It turns the sacred profane. It makes accountants of lovers. Is it a logical outcome of her conditioning? Absolutely. You raised her in a world that taught her to be the CEO of Me Incorporated, to outsource inefficiency, to value her time, to protect her interests in a competitive, often hostile, landscape. You taught her to think like an economist. You handed her the spreadsheet. Do not be shocked, do not be horrified, when she uses it to analyze the most significant investment of her life. The squeeze, the moving goalposts, and the leverage paradox. This is where men feel the vice tighten. The standards, the infamous, ever-escalating list. It starts rationally. I need a partner who is financially stable. But stability is a slippery concept. In a world of Instagram luxury and girl boss aesthetics, stable can morph into comfortable. Comfortable can inflate to able to provide the lifestyle I am accustomed to as a dink, dual income, no kids. The expectation shifts from, can we support a child, to can he maintain my standard of living while I am unable to contribute fully? The goalposts are not just moving, they are on rocket sleds. He must be financially secure, but also emotionally intelligent. Ambitious, but always present. A leader, but a follower of her lead. Strong, but vulnerable. The list of contradictory requirements becomes a litmus test few can pass. The demographic consequence is a brutal marketplace distortion. The men who can actually meet these elevated standards, the truly financially secure, emotionally mature, domestically competent men, are rare. And rarity creates power. These men find themselves in a market of profound abundance. They are the scarce resource. They have options, many, many options, of women who are all competing for their commitment. This creates a devastating leverage paradox. The woman, seeking to mitigate her risk, raises her standards to filter for safety and provision. This shrinks her pool of acceptable partners to a tiny percentage. That tiny percentage of men, now acutely aware of their market value, feel less pressure to commit. Why choose one when you can enjoy the benefits of many? Why sign a binding contract when the terms are so favorable to you in a non-binding state? So they delay, they hedge, they keep their options open. She, in turn, waiting at the altar of her own expectations, watches her fertility window, a biological reality utterly indifferent to market dynamics, begin its irreversible slide toward closure. The very strategy designed to secure her future engineers its absence. She ends up in a purgatory. Neither the storybook partner nor the children she might have deeply wanted with a good enough man. The perfect becomes the enemy of the existent. The collision, Male decline versus female fantasy. This leads to the bitter, shared lament. The female refrain echoes everywhere. There are no good men left. They're all lazy, immature, porn-sick, financially unstable man-children. When you dissect this cry, you find a painful collision of two truths. Truth 1. The real male decline. The structures that once funneled boys into competent manhood, clear social roles, rites of passage, stable career paths, community accountability, have eroded. Many young men are adrift, undereducated, underemployed, overstimulated by digital escapism, and lacking a compelling narrative for their lives beyond consumption. They are not being forged, they are being softened. This is a real, documented, societal problem. And women are right to look at these men and think, you are not a safe harbor. You are another child I would have to raise. Truth 2. The inflated female expectation. Concurrently, the standards for the men who aren't adrift have been inflated to near mythic proportions. He must be a hybrid of a Netflix romantic lead, a Fortune 500 CEO, a sensitive poet, and a hands-on Montessori dad. He must have the therapy vocabulary of a psychologist, the earning potential of a tech bro, and the rustic survival skills of a lumberjack. Any flaw, any single area of lack, can disqualify him entirely. The fantasy is not a person, it is a checklist of tropes. Both realities feed each other in a vicious cycle. Real male failure makes the fantasy seem more necessary. I have to find a perfect one, because the average is so broken. The pursuit of the fantasy further demoralizes the average man. Why bother trying, when I'll be rejected for not being a billionaire with a six-pack? The solution is not to blame one side entirely. It is a call for a brutal, dual accountability. Men must do better. Rise. Build. Take responsibility. Heal. Women must calibrate. Distinguish between essential standards for a good father/partner and a luxury-branded wish list. Kindly subscribe, like, share, and comment for the next part to be released.